Hey YouTube, Gavix Toons here, bringing you my very first deck profile video. This is more of an assignment I have to do for online schooling, but I figured, hey, this could be fun, and I'm going to be using what my main deck really is. Sorry that this video is going to be angled weird. I couldn't really get a proper camera stand, and yeah. Also, fair warning, this deck's not really competitive nor that great, so if you're looking for a meta breaking deck, this is not the place to be. However, I do plan on making a revised deck list, more of a working deck list when the new Toon Chaos booster set comes out. But anyway, let's get started. So what I'm going to be running first is 2 copies of Toon Dark Magician. What he does is he's a level 7 Toon spellcaster monster who can, once per turn, discard a Toon card from my hand and pretty much search out your entire deck, either A, special summoning a Toon monster from the deck, or B, adding a Toon spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. This guy combos great with another guy I'm going to bring up later on this list, and it's a really good combo piece. He helps special summon your big beat sticks you want to have your deck, your really good Toon monsters, or helps you search really useful Toon cards like Toon Kingdom, Toon Table, and even Briefcase at that matter. And he's just a really powerful card altogether, and he doesn't self-destruct when Toon World's destroyed. So he's just a very powerful searcher who works very well with the deck. So we run 2 copies of him. Next up, we run 2 copies of the guy I mentioned before, Red Eyes Toon Dragon. He is a level 7 Dark Dragon Toon monster, and his effect is I can special summon any Toon monster from my hand, ignoring its summoning conditions, like the guy I mentioned before. He's useful because he helps swarm the field with Toon monsters and helps you set up your Toon Dark Magician plays. And that can be really helpful for swarming material. Also, he's a level 7 like Toon Dark Magician, which can help you go into your Xyz plays, which will be presented later. And yeah, he's incredibly useful. Also doesn't self-destruct when Toon World's destroyed, so another useful Toon monster. Next up, we play 2 copies of Toon Cyber Dragon. He's a level 5 light machine Toon monster who can special summon himself from your hand if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters. He's a great going second starter. He can just pop out. He has a powerful 2100 attack, and he's also mainly in this deck to help an Xyz play, a really powerful one at that. And I'll explain the combo later. But yeah, he's another useful one, and he's very adorable. And yeah, he's another good body to put in the deck. Next, we run 2 copies of the level 4 Toon Gemini Elves and the level 4 Toon Mask Sorcerers, 2 each. These guys are your easy to summon level 4s who can create hand control. Toon Gemini Elves makes it so that when she inflicts damage by attacking directly, your opponent has to discard a card. And Toon Mask Sorcerer makes it so when he inflicts damage attacking directly, you get to draw a card. So with these 2 out, they're constantly creating hand control. And yeah, that's very useful. Also, can go into some easy rank 4s if you want to, which can help extend the game. So yeah, they're good little extenders, easy to summon level 4s. And finally, these picks can be ultimately decided by you, but I really like these. They're 1 each of the classic Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, Toon Summon Skull, there he is, Toon Dark Magician Girl, and Toon Mermaid. Now, all these guys, very old, not that great. They do self-destruct when Toon World's destroyed. Some of them cost 500 life points to attack, but they're really fun to use, especially Blue Eyes Toon Dragon being a 30,000 beat stick. and they're just all very nostalgia based. And if you get Red Eyes, Toon Dark Magician, and Toon Blue Eyes out, you pretty much win with nostalgia points, and it's very fun to pull that off. And if you're not having fun, then you're not playing tunes. That's like the bare bottom line. And yeah, it's very useful. It can help set up the deck. And finally, for our monsters, which these three are not Toon monsters, we run 3 Black Stone of Legend. These cards you want in your beginning hand all the time. Pretty much their effect is to get a level 7 or lower Red Eyes monster out straight from your deck, which are the Red Eyes Toon Dragons. So you want mainly this thing and Toon Dark Magician in your hand, and you pretty much have a 2-card combo right there that can help swarm the field and build your board really fast. And yeah, that's really helpful. So you want to run 3. Moving on from the monsters, we're going to move on to the spell and trap cards. First, we play what every variation of a Toon deck should play, no matter what kind of Toon deck you're playing. 3 copies of Toon Table of Contents. Its effect being add 1 Toon card or manga reran from your deck to your hand. Pretty much you can just search out your entire deck that way. You can search any card with the name Toon in it. It's a searcher. It's a +0 pretty much. And yeah, that's really helpful. You can pretty much swap this card out for any other Toon card that you need in any scenario. Next, this is another card I highly recommend people getting, even though it's a bit more pricey than most of these cards. It's worth it. It's great if you want to run a Toon deck. Obviously, the good field spell Toon Kingdom. Its effect reads, when it's activated, banish the top 3 cards of your deck face down. This card's name is treated as Toon World, which is the main engine of the entire deck. And also, your opponent cannot target Toon monsters you control with card effects, and anytime your Toon monsters would be destroyed by battle or card effects, you can pretty much banish the top card face down instead. So this card is really reactive and helpful for protecting your Toons. I do wish it was a little more proactive, like, I don't know, searching out maybe a Toon spell once in a while. I don't know. But obviously that'd probably be a little busted for a field spell, which is the reason Terraforming and Metaverse are at 1 right now. But it's a really good Toon field spell. You really want to run it. I really wouldn't recommend running the original Toon World because it's just pretty much pay 1,000 life points to do nothing. And I don't think it's not really worth it, even if you want Toon World out. Anyway, moving on to the next spells. This pair is really funny. 2 copies of Comic Hand and 2 copies of Mimicat. So these spell cards are really helpful. The numbers can be a bit debated because these cards can be bricky in your hand because they don't have Toon in their names, so you can't really ditch them with Toon Dark Magician's effect or search them out, but when you pull them off, it is extremely worth it and extremely funny. So first, let's start off with Comic Hand. Comic Hand's effect is if you control a face-up Toon world, equipped it to an opponent's monster, take control of that monster and is treated as a Toon monster, and like all Toon monsters usually can do, it can attack your opponent directly. If Toon World is destroyed, destroy this card, which means you would have to return the equipped monster back to your opponent. But having the ability to steal your opponent's monster and turn it into a Toon monster, that's just hilarious. That's very funny. That's very much like how this deck worked in the anime. I really like that effect. I think it's pretty funny. It's definitely one of my favorite equip spells. I love pulling it off and creating new Toons with my friends' cards. They hate it when I do that, but it's fun. And the other card, Mimicat, equally as fun to pull off. A little harder, though. If you control Toon World and a face-up Toon monster, so you have to have 2 things out, target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard, and if it is a monster, special summon it, and if it's a spell or a trap, you can set it to your field. So this card just gets to let you snatch anything you want from your opponent's graveyard instead of just straight up on the field like Comic Hand, which can be really useful late game. You can steal like a really powerful devastating trap card, or you can steal a really powerful monster, or even a spell card that can help give you advantage. Like let's say they play Upstart Goblin or something, then you can turn that into your Upstart Goblin. or something like that. There's a billion examples that can be used, but it's overall great card. Great card. Moving on, all these spells pretty much are in the same category because currently they are on the limited part of the list. Well, one of them isn't, but it will be in about a couple days, April 1st, from this time's recording. The cards that should be played in this deck are Terraforming, which its effect, search a field spell from your deck, add it to your hand. That's good to help you search out Toon Kingdom. 1-for-1, you get to send one monster from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck. That's helpful getting the Black Snow Legend out to help you get your Red Eyes Toon Dragon out. Monster Reborn, which is pretty much just a free revive of any of your Toon monsters, or you can steal an opponent's monster from the graveyard, also useful. Upstart Goblin, just a generic draw card. I am planning on replacing Upstart and the other draw card I have in this deck currently out with Pot of Extravagance, because in a Toon deck you really don't use your extra deck often, and Pot of Extravagance is like just +2 with +1, pardon me, +1 with the sacrifice of some of your extra deck, but for Toons that like barely matters, so it's pretty much Pot of Greed, and that's super useful. The only downside is you have to activate it at the start of your main phase and you can't play any more draw cards, but if you just play Pot of Extravagance, I think it's a really good card. And another card, Instant Fusion. This is the card I was talking about that will be banned, or not banned, limited in a couple days. Its effect, you can special summon a fusion monster from your extra deck that's level 5 or lower, and it pretty much just stays out. It can attack and it will be destroyed during the end phase, but you can do a lot with a level 5 or lower fusion monster out. This card's very useful to help you set up combos, which I will show later. Another card you want to play, this is the other draw card that I talked about that I might switch out for Extravagance when that gets a reprint and is much more cheap, because Pot of Extravagance is super expensive now, it's ridiculous. Allure of Darkness, because you run a lot of dark monsters in the deck. But it can be a bit tricky because Toon's attributes are kind of all over the place. So, like, if you just draw a Gemini Elf and you have none of your dark monsters in your hand, then you can end up losing your hand thanks to this card's effect. And yeah, that can be a bit of an issue. So, which is why I'm planning on trading that and Upstart out for Extravagance. Another card that I like to play, Mind Control, which is target one card your opponent controls, take control of it, however it can attack or be tributed. You can use this to steal an opponent's monster and use it for your plays, like maybe it's a level 7 you steal, so you can set up your Xyz plays, or you can link it away for link monsters. It's up to you. It's a really good card that can help get rid of boss monsters. If you don't like that, you can always run Kaijus, I suppose, but that can get bricky. Next up, this is more of a choice card. You don't have to run this. This is more of a for fun card that you can search out when you want to finish your opponent off. Shadow Toon. It's a really good finisher card. What I mean by that is a board you typically want to make would be summoning out Red Eyes Toon Dragon, Toon Dark Magician, then Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. Toons have to wait a turn before they get to attack, and then next turn you just attack your opponent directly. Their total attack is 7,900 exactly, which leaves your opponent with 100 extra life points. On your very next turn after you deal damage to your opponent, if they happen to have a monster out, you can search Shadow Toon and finish them off. That's mainly what I like to use this card for, and it's very cool looking. I like the card a lot. And finally, our last spell card we'll be playing is one copy of Twin Twisters. I put it in this deck mainly for spell and trap card removal because there's not too many spaces you can fit spell and trap card removal in this deck. But it's a really useful spell card. I recommend playing it. I would probably swap out a Shadow Toon for Twin Twisters just to have that like ability to get rid of spell and trap cards. Or if you don't want to discard cards, you can always play MST, I suppose, but it's not as good. But now moving on to the traps. We're going to run 3 copies of Toon Briefcase. This card is my favorite, just Toon card in general. It is so funny. Pretty much its effect is when your opponent summons a monster while you control a Toon monster, just shovel that monster back into the deck. Just say bye to the opponent's monster. Boom, gone. Eaten by a briefcase. Just done. It's out of here. It's really useful. It's a really good, just generic trap for Toons. And you can even use it for fodder for Toon Dark Magician's effect. So it has multiple uses. I really like this card. And it can be searched out. So I really like it. And finally, for the last card of the main deck and final trap card, we play one copy of Metaverse because Toon Kingdom is really essential for this deck. And this card helps you search it out, very much like terraforming. And yeah, you want to get that field spell out as soon as possible. Now we're going to move on to the extra deck. Fair warning, this extra deck isn't really complete. And it's mainly up to you on how you want to complete it, but I'll probably recommend some cards out. But first, for the rank 7 Xyz monsters, we're going to be running one copy of Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon, who's really good for burn damage, and one copy of Big Eye, which can help you steal monsters. There's a lot of cards in this deck that help you steal opponents' monsters, and it's very useful. It helps wipe the board without needing to really destroy them. But yeah, that can be helpful. Next, we're going to play one copy of Cyber Dragon Nova and one Cyber Dragon Infinity. These cards play with Toon Cyber Dragon in the deck, where you pretty much set up for Nova and then go into Infinity. And that can be a game ender right there, just having a almost indestructible negate on board. That steals opponents' monsters on top of that. Man, this deck really seems to have a theme. Yeah. That's also a very useful card. Next, for rank 4s, I run one copy of Baguska, the Terribly Tired Taper, to help slow down the game and make it so that your opponent's monsters can't do anything for 2 turns, so you can possibly set up for your turn. And one copy of Tornado Dragon. Same reason that Twin Twister's in the deck. It's just a good monster to help remove pesky spell and trap cards that could possibly get in your way, and overall, that's pretty useful. Those are the Xyz monsters that I put in here. You can definitely put in more monsters of the same ranking, but with different effects for variety, which I would probably recommend if you want to go for the Extravagance play, because if you're playing Extravagance, you want to have a full extra deck, so you can have cards you can ditch for Extravagance's effect. For fusion monsters, our instant fusion targets, we run one Thousand Eyes Restrict and one Panzer Dragon. I don't have Millennium Eyes Restrict or the Link Monster Relinquished Automa. However, I do highly recommend putting those cards in this extra deck. They go really well with the deck altogether. But overall, Thousand Eyes Restrict allows you to steal a monster, and then you can link this away either with Relinquished Automa or a Link Karibo. I also recommend putting a Link Karibo in the deck. And Panzer Dragon is another part of the Cyber Dragon combo. It's a level 5 light machine monster, which can help you go into your Cyber Dragon Nova, which helps you go into your Infinity. So if you have a Toon Cyber Dragon in your hand and you control no monsters and your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon it, then play Instant Fusion, get this thing out, boom, you have Nova. And that's really powerful. Real quick, I'm going to show some combos that this deck can do, mainly based on what it wants to do. I'll probably give some quick example of test plays. So one type of test play, let's say you have a hand of Blackstone of Legend, Toon Dark Magician, Toon Table of Contents, and Toon Cyber Dragon, and finally, let's put in... I just shuffled this deck, so I'm trying to look for the right card. Give me a moment. Sorry, folks. Instant Fusion. So yeah, pretty much, let's say you're going second, your opponent takes his turn, you draw. What you could pretty much do is special summon Toon Cyber Dragon, activate instant fusion, get out Panzer Dragon, create really strong board by automatically going into infinity, then Nova to infinity, pardon me. And you haven't even used up your normal summon yet, which is really good already. So then you can summon Blackstone Legend, and from here on out, if your opponent tries to negate any of your plays, you can use Nova's effect. I mean, Infinity. I keep getting them mixed up. Infinity's effect to detach an Xyz material to negate that effect. So you pretty much have a blocker to help keep your game state safe. I'm going to lift the camera a little bit. So from there, you summon Red Eyes Toon Dragon. Then you use Red Eyes Toon Dragon to special summon the Toon Dark Magician from your hand. Then you use Toon Dark Magician's effect to discard a Toon card. Toon Briefcase, like I said, has double uses. And let's bring a fun monster out for just a board. Toon Blue Eyes. Then finally, whoops, I dropped it. Well, whatever, I'll just use a copy. You would play Toon Table of Contents to search your deck for Toon Kingdom. Let's say you play that. You play Toon Kingdom, banish the top 3 cards of your deck face down. And there you go. That's like a really powerful board right there. You have a Negator who steals opponent's monsters. You have 3 powerful Toon monsters who are ready to attack directly. And you also have Powerhouse with him. Overall, it's not the fastest deck. And you would need very specific hands to get a board like this. But it does happen. And it's very fun to pull off. Like I said, this deck isn't really competitive. But I'm hoping with the new booster set coming out that's giving Toon support, the deck will become a lot more consistent, because I've been playing this deck for a really long time, and I really want it to be more consistent and useful. And yeah, overall, it would help the deck if we could get our materials that we want out much faster, instead of relying on basic searches like, I don't know, Toon Table. It's not a bad card, Toon Table of Contents, but we can definitely do more. But anyways, that's going to be it. That's going to wrap up our deck list. Sorry this video isn't in the greatest quality. I'm mainly getting started. Hopefully I'll get better as time goes on. Like I said, I'm planning on making an edited version of this deck when the new booster set comes out. And yeah, who knows? Maybe Toons will be meta. I doubt it, but it'll always be a fun rogue strategy plus legacy, because it was used by the main villain in the anime. So Toons are a fan favorite, and they really deserve some love. And I want to have this deck be better. I've been trying my best, and this is about the best I have right now. And yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good day.